Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to SCORE Fairfield County's live webinar on tech safety while working from home. I'm Tim Ryan, the webinar coordinator and a business mentor here at SCORE Fairfield County, and I'll be your host. Our presenter today is Bud Freund. First, some brief information on SCORE. SCORE has 320 offices and over 11,000 volunteers, and we're part of the Small Business Administration. SCORE Fairfield County has over 130 volunteers, and a wide range of industry, process, and subject matter expertise is available. We offer 3 primary value-added services to small business owners. 1, free one-on-one counseling, face-to-face, telephone, email, video, which can be accessed via Request Mentor link on our website or via the link on the screen. Educational workshops and webinars, we have over 150 per year. And we also have extensive resources on our website, including a network of subject matter experts at your disposal and templates to build business plans, financial projections, etc. As everyone probably knows by now, all of our workshops are moving online for the foreseeable future. Our calendar is being updated daily. I would suggest you check out our calendar at our website for details. For instance, there was a webinar being offered tomorrow on social media marketing, and the day after tomorrow, another webinar covering working virtually. Yesterday, Cliff Inico gave a presentation covering strategies for working from home. That presentation and today's presentation will soon be available on our website, archived under recorded webinars. Check out the list, please. Now we've set aside some time for questions and answers at the end of the presentation. If you have a question, please use the chat window at any time during the presentation. It is located in the lower part of your screen. Our webinar will end sharply at 1 o'clock to respect your time. The session is being recorded, as I said, and the link to the recording will be available at fairfieldcounty.score.org within the next couple of days. Now our speaker. Bud Freund has been self-employed for 40 years. He has a national and international assignments in consumer products, magazine, and public relations industries. He's been providing IT solutions for homes and small businesses for over 20 years and is a regular SCORE presenter covering various tech-oriented topics. I'll now turn it over to Bud. Bud, it's all yours.
Thank you, Tim, and welcome all, and thank you for joining us. A quick shout out to a couple of people that I wanted to just give credit to. My 2 partners in crime, Bob Hogan and Elliot Tarlin, and my alter ego, Fred Fishman, who took the time to go through this deck to make sure that I provided you with some decent information and I wasn't putting my foot in my mouth. These are the things we're going to be talking about, and most importantly is this notion of how to be smarter than those people who want to outsmart you, and I am telling you that there are a lot of them out there. Before we dive too deeply, I just want to explain that I'm going to be providing you with a huge amount of information, and once this is done, you will be able to see it at our Fairfield County SCORE YouTube channel, where you will be able to freeze frame it at your leisure and go through it at whatever speed you want. This one is going to be to get it in under the time allotment. Please email us questions. Please email us things that you'd like to see expanded on for other topics. We are doing lots of webinars right now. And understand that the things that I'm going to present to you are going to be predominantly things that you'll be able to do, and you don't need a propeller on your beanie to make it happen. The reason for this presentation is that I read massive amounts so that I can distill it down for you. And this was one day from one newsletter, which pretty much gives the writing on the wall that there's going to be some really big issues coming down the pike. more significantly, right now, there are bogus SBA websites. So please proceed cautiously with the information you provide. And as you know, for our Zoom presentations, we ask you to register. The FBI is looking into Zoom webinars where people can just join on, and that's where the issues are rising. Now, just wanted to give you a quick view of what I'm looking like these days as we are all transitioning from that kumbaya, isn't it wonderful to have the family all together, to you come by me again and I'm going to hit you with a folding chair because it's getting really, really irritating here, and understand that unfortunately this could be a reality for people, which top left corner, 2 quick hotlines that you can reference to if you hear of or need the help yourself. Now, I have been doing this PSA for as long as I've been doing workshops, and basically, if you can do those 4 items, you are going to be able to keep a business running, and far more importantly, you will have a leg up on a multinational corporation that got completely shut down by North Korea after that cockamamie movie that they made. And just plan for these things, whether it's a spare computer or it's from your phone or your tablet. But if you can do these things, you will be able to keep your business running. Now, I want to spend a few moments talking about the everything thing. And it really is these days. It is your communication, written, visual, and verbal. It's your banking, billing, and investing. It's your research, recreation, and right now, it's your education. It is a really, really important tool. As important a tool as other pieces of infrastructure in your house. I recently asked a group, if your stove or your refrigerator stopped working, would you wait a month, a week, or a day to get it fixed? And the answer we all know. Now, that squiggly looking thing that looks like a face on the right side there, that's called a QR code. It contains information that a computer can understand. I have yet to meet a human being who could tell me what that says. It could take you to a website. It could provide you with information about a person. There's no way to know. And bit.lys, which you will be seeing through this presentation as well, are the same sort of thing. You don't know where a bit.ly will take you, and the upper and lower case of a bit.ly are very important. However, if you type that bit.ly into checkshorturl.com, it will tell you what the expanded URL is. So again, these are just precautionary things to keep your machinery running. A few quick thoughts about what's going on, and understand that that's a quote from 4 years ago and we're still figuring it out. A quick note on those people who are going to be polishing their websites, and understand that there's stuff online, but if it's copyrighted, it's not free eats. Fair use is a legal doctrine, and I'm not going to quote the law, but there are abilities to use things in fair use. However, if somebody owns a copyright, they own the image, and you're not welcome to just take it. Another thing to keep in mind that I will try to be doing, I am not looking at chats at the end of this. I'm going to have people feeding me questions, but I try to do this theory of simplicity as best I can. And most important these days is the immortal words of Dr. Hunter Thompson, who wrote this in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Now, let's get started. If you're driving with someone and you see that symbol show up on your dashboard and you do nothing, my question is whether you are going to continue to drive and have your passenger push, or whether you're going to have your passenger push and your passenger drive and you're going to push. Because my crystal ball predicts that if you don't do anything, you're going to have a problem. Similarly, When you see those little red circles, it is time to do something on your devices. There are 80,000 doors into and out of a computer, and if they plugged them all up, you wouldn't get any work done. So the upgrades and the updates are where people find things that need to be corrected, and I urge you to do your downloads and keep your hardware up and your software up to date. To put it differently, once upon a time, cars didn't have bumpers. Then they got seat belts, and then they got airbags. And each of those were done for the safety of the driver and the passengers. Again, when it comes to computers, I hope you will find a place somewhere between doing absolutely nothing and total paranoia. In other words, don't just observe the speed limit signs, pay attention to them now, because if you don't, it could be a really big problem. Now, we're all going to be fighting this bandwidth issue because you've got this massive stuff that wants to get out through this really tiny pipe out to the internet, and your neighbor and your neighbor's neighbor and your neighbor's neighbor's neighbor, to quote Monty Python, are trying to do the same thing. So with that said, we're going to go through some suggestions on how you might be able to keep your systems and your house working a little better. Okay, in the first place is your router, because your router is basically the device that's controlling everybody getting out the door. And I am a really big fan right now of mesh networks because they are basically overlapping bubbles and they keep a really strong signal all the way through your house. Several companies making them are Googled. I know them only as hockey pucks. I don't remember the name. Netgear makes the Orbi system, and Amazon has the Eero, E-E-R-O system as well. To make computers run faster, wires work better than wireless. You have a problem with wireless, it's very hard to grab hold of something and solve the problem. If you go under the hood of a router, you are able to get lots of information. In this case, on my machine, I saw that one of these things had been unplugged because somebody had plugged something in and inadvertently unplugged it. And understand, we have 32 devices right now connected to this machine, and that's networked printers and tablets and phones and computers, and there's 4 of us in the house right now. If you can get under the hood, you can start to manage your network so that the work that you need to get done can go out on a faster network, and you can dedicate to the other network, the slower network, if your kids have this burning desire to play Fortnite or watch Netflix. In terms of the hardware that you've got to use, if you can afford and if you are able to find a newer computer, it's going to work better, it's going to work faster, it is going to be more compatible with many things out on the internet, which is constantly changing. If you are not familiar with tigerdirect.com, again, the name is tigerdirect.com, they sell refurbs. And I just bought a refurb for myself very recently because for what I needed in my office, it was going to be perfectly fine. And it works very well. I don't look in people's wallets, so the price points are going to be different for everybody. Now, another tip that you may want to look into on your phone is that if you go into settings, if you go into cellular data, and if you go to that Wi-Fi calling and turn it on, you are basically going to be able to do voice over IP, and it will allow you to get a better connection if you've got bad network or bad cellular service where you live. Now, I am a very big believer in the management of networks. It's what I do at a school, and I've got 100 people who I have to manage. So there are things that they can do and things that they cannot do. In your house, it may be time to exercise those abilities as well. And there's a few ways that you can always go about it. This is one of them. If you change the Wi-Fi password every day, you may be able to get some chores done. Again, just another method of understanding that this is your network, not your kid's network. And I want to talk about the golden rule of technology, but first understand that anything you see in color other than green is something that I pay for. So in our house, the golden rule of technology is not do unto others, yada, yada, yada. The golden rule of technology is I've got the gold, so I make the rules. And it may sound very heartless, but this is what I get in my email inbox when I help other people get set up with that so that they can do the management of their home networks. And this is what's in your inbox. Now, if you have one computer and you are sharing it with other people, I urge you to set up multiple users. You as parent, you as business person, you are going to want to have one user. You may want to be the administrator. Have your kids be a second user. And as just a user and not an administrator, I promise you, you will not diminish their internet experience. However, you will be able to minimize the potential risks of downloading and installing things that could present a problem to your machine. Now, we've come to learn that companies like Facebook and Google are tracking everything we do, and I want to give you ways, now that you may be working from home, to be able to turn that off. The bit.ly at the top is from an article in the Washington Post by Jeffrey Fowler. If he writes it, I read it. He's just that good. And he explains how you can get to that URL at the bottom and turn off Facebook's ability to track everything you do and send it off to third-party companies. Note that if it's gray, it's off. When it's green, it's on. So go into your Facebook account, you can turn that stuff off. If you are having a Google account and you go to myactivity.google.com, you can turn off Google's tracking as well. And don't worry about that very sad computer down there. Google's got a couple of other people they will track, and it won't be an issue other than the fact that you will no longer have Nike sneakers following you all over the internet. You can turn off YouTube tracking as well. You can turn off anything that is Google related if you just noodle around inside of that myactivity.google.com. Next place that I recommend you go to is aboutads.info. If you go to the consumer page and you click on the consumer choice button that's on the right side there, you will get to a page that will allow you to turn off the advertising by 134 legitimate internet advertisers. It won't turn everything off, but the quantity of ads that will be attacking you will be substantially decreased. Now, we're on social media and getting ornery, and a few thoughts to just bear in mind about that, because it could be a problem. All of this stuff is your digital footprint, and that's what people can track, whether it's from your computer or from your internet service provider or Verizon or AT&T. All of this stuff is trackable. All of this stuff by court order can be retrieved. There's an office at Verizon. All they do is field lawyer letters for cases. Charlie went to here at a certain time. Was he texting while he was driving? It's all traceable. So understand, we do have freedom of speech in this country, but we do not have freedom from consequence. And I like David Barry. He does this yearly recap. My preference on Twitter is that anyone who's ever studied the English language knows that the root of Twitter is twit. Now, there is a genre of people online known as the disgruntled, and they think, unfortunately, like this. You got, I didn't, I'm going to go digging and see if I can mess you up. You may not know Kyle Kashoff by face, but he and David Hogg went to Parkland High School in Florida, and he and David Hogg were accepted to Harvard. Unfortunately for Mr. Kashoff, somebody went digging into his social media, found whatever it was that looked incredibly ugly, and told Harvard about it. Mr. Kashoff sent what was probably a lovely letter saying, "It's not the person I am, please reconsider, and I appeal to you." And Harvard's answer to him was basically, in calendar year 2018, we got 42,000 applications, from which we took 2,000 people for freshman class. We wish you the best in anything that you do, but it ain't happening here. And understand that the article that I've clipped comes from the British Broadcasting Company. So this is the stuff that is traveling all over the world. And it's not just some wacky kid in school. People at work are doing this as well. Bruce Rauner was the governor of Illinois. He hired a young fellow to be his front man for business meetings and presentations. Somebody dug out the information on this poor fellow, and the guy was employed by the governor for 1 day. This is one of my long-term favorites. That arrow, this thing is a 7-year-old story about this woman who got on the plane in New York. She did that Twitter posting. By the time she landed in South Africa, she was unemployed and she had to buy her own ticket home. Now, many of you may know Gilbert Gottfried as the voice of Iago in Aladdin. However, he was also the voice of the Aflac duck. All he had to do to make $1 bazillion a year was say Aflac, until he did 10 Twitter postings and he was unemployed. Please remember the words of the Bob Seger song, "The Internet Never Forgets." And understand that teens are beginning to get the message on that and are deleting this stuff as they figure out that it might not be good for their futures. So, folks, dig deep in your social media, do some cleaning. It's really important these days. Another thing that's really important is that if you have a website, go through it to be sure that everything is on there that you want and there aren't things on there that you don't want. I know this naturopathic doctor isn't monetizing porn, but he didn't know that this was on his website. So do your homework. Watch out for these things. It's all happening. I'm not inventing this stuff. We'll talk about antivirus for a while and understand that there are multiple choices. And as you can see from the big box, Macs can get infected too. So as a punch list, and I will not endorse any single one, AVG has a free version. Avast has a free version. However, Avast was selling your data. They got caught. They were embarrassed. Bitdefender has a really good free PC product. They have a paid version on the Apple side. As you can see, Kaspersky is no longer allowed to have their software on any government computers. So that's a list of short things. I'll be happy to answer a longer list later on, but again, use common sense, use caution, and the other thing you'll see a little later as well is that if you hover over a link before you click on it, it will tell you where you may be going. SUPERAntiSpyware, an incredibly unusual name, does a great job of cleaning stuff out of your computer. This was, to me, a new world's record, and unfortunately, it was on a computer that had medical records. Folks, you gotta be careful both with your own data and with other people's as well. I'm going to spend a moment on backup. Yesterday, Cliff Enico had started to talk about this. I am a very big advocate of what is called the 3-2-1-1 backup, and it goes like this. Put your data in 3 different places, 2 different media, one of them off-site and one of them offline, and it goes like this. 3 different places. The computer you're working on, a Mozy, Carbonite, or Datto, which is a company that does online backups for you. They are a paid service. Mozy and Carbonite are as well. And then the other place would be the external drive, whether it's a thumb drive or something bigger. 2 different media. Datto, Carbonite, Mozy, that's going to be one place. The external drive would be a second. One of them off-site, that's going to be your Mozy, your Carbonite, or your Datto. And then one of them offline, which is where most people do not do the work, and this is where you can save yourself. If you use Time Machine on an Apple computer or File History on a Windows 10 computer, it will do a backup. When it's done doing the backup, unplug the drive, because if there is a problem on your computer, it will not infect the drive that is not connected to the computer. And understand as well, online services like Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Drive, these aren't backups. They are online access. They allow you to get to your stuff from multiple places. Now, if you have multiple computers and you have them connected to these various places and you're pulling everything down, then you will be able to shut off that computer and you have an offline backup. I'll happily answer questions on that later. So the next thing that's really important right now is that the quantity of information that is coming at us is moving faster than the headlights on our cars. So anybody besides me happen to see this article in the Washington Post? Understand that people are getting scammed all over the world, and it's not just small businesses or large businesses. This is Mission Impossible type stuff, folks. Now, I'm not going to tell you that this chart is gospel truth, but I am going to tell you that if you do a lot of reading of news, you will find that this thing has been chopped up into a pretty respectable assessment of where different information sources lie in terms of opinion. And try to get decent news. It's really important these days. I've got a couple of examples. Here's the first one. This was an article in October of last year about Pitney Bowes getting hit by ransomware. And the article is really important and it's significant. However, the problem with the article is that 1 year earlier than the article was written, the Pitney Bowes building was no longer the Pitney Bowes building. It was now Westover Elementary School because they're remediating mold in the Westover building. So here are people telling you that they're keeping on top of things, but they're not really on top of all of what they're on top of. So again, just stuff to bear in mind. Next item. If the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post all tell you that California is closing down, it's a pretty safe bet that California is closing down. Similarly, if Apple, Facebook, YouTube, and Google all believe that the information coming out of InfoWars may not be particularly good, again, it's a pretty safe bet that this is not particularly good information. This is probably going to be the most important slide that I can share with you about information on the internet, and I'm building it very deliberately. That 86% of people are, what's a really good restaurant downtown? Do you know a good plumber locally? What's the best large flat screen television? Okay, that's what's glommed into that 86%. Now, I want to juxtapose that against this article, which indicates that Facebook took a lot of fake stuff down. Now, do your homework. You will see that Facebook will tell you that on a daily basis, they've got approximately 2 billion active users, which means that potentially, I'll say that again, potentially 1/4 of the information that you are seeing is bogus. How does that happen? Well, this is how it happens. You have people who are being paid to write that this is the best product I've ever touched. You've got other businesses that are trying to burn you down. And I have heard from multiple sources that if you get a bad ad on Yelp, it is the only way that you are going to be able to get it taken down is if you buy into Yelp as a service for your business. So understand that part of your job these days is to build trust. And as an example, right now, companies like Zoom and Adobe, who are giving away product to teachers and students, they're building trust and respect among people because rather than price gouging or, oh, wouldn't it be nice if you could use this, but you're going to have to pay us, they're giving their products away. So let's talk about email, which for many, many places is the lifeblood of their business. So if you're getting too many emails, I recommend that you unsubscribe. Quick moment, please, folks. So, lifeblood of your business. Too many emails from too many places. Right now, you may not need to know that the XYZ shoe store is having a sale. If you unsubscribe from your mobile device, as opposed to your primary computer, if you are concerned about risk, there is less possibility, I'll say that again, less possibility of your being infected from your mobile device, which is probably a different language than your Windows computer, than if you unsubscribe from your computer. BCCs, blind carbon copies. We're all hitting reply all and getting that information out as quickly as possible. And as we send out all of those emails, we are putting other people at risk of all of this garbage that can be out there. And it's another email address that somebody can poke at. So if you need to have a mailing list, I recommend that you use what's called the BCC field, where all of the people will get the information. In the body of your email itself, put the list of people who you're emailing. Then you're not sharing everybody's email with the whole rest of the planet. As I said before, if you hover over email links, if you hover over who sent the email, if you hover over URLs and hot links in your emails and other places, you'll get an idea of where it's going to before you click first and regret later. You don't want to get that email, and understand that the increase in malicious email is just staggering right now. Proceed cautiously, please. So, some of you may remember a play called The 6 Degrees of Separation. I was talking with someone recently who thinks with email and the internet and TikTok and Twitter and Facebook, it's been chopped down to 4 degrees of separation. So who's at that far end? You really don't have any idea anymore. And the risks are becoming far greater now that your everything thing is basically the lifeline to run your business. So, a couple of quick reviews. There's no Microsoft logo anywhere. There's a letter coming out of, this one is the Ukraine. Unless you're in the size of the state of California or General Motors, there is no Microsoft account team for you, which would make that button a really big problem. My other and one of my favorites, first of all, I do no international shipping, so right there, I'm not looking at this, number one. Number two, I know for a fact that FedEx does not need to use support@dentistelmhurstny.com as their emailing address because they've got FedEx.com. Again, making that button at the bottom a really big problem. So just to say it again, please use a BCC when you can. This is now one of my favorite scam, fish, whatever word you'd like to use, and that's PHISH, phishing items. Look at this, folks. The director of the FBI, Christopher Wray, sent me a personal email from his Polish personal email address telling me that there is $1.5 million awaiting me if I contact Betsy Holden, who works at the only Western Union post office in California, using her Gmail address to send information. What do you think I should do? Also, we have an issue going on right now with schools that are trying to provide information to kids. They're also under attack. It's costing people time, it's costing money. Read your emails carefully, folks. This is something that is just widespread, and it's going to, unfortunately, in my crystal ball, get uglier. One more reminder. Have I mentioned this, by the way? Anyway, let's move on. Okay. Use a password on everything and everywhere. Understanding that most of the people who are going out and trying to find somebody to prey on are looking for low-hanging fruit. They're not looking for somebody who's got multi-factor authentication, two-factor authentication, two-step authentication, or number two-step authentication. I will tell you in a moment. They're looking for somebody who is not doing any of this stuff and just plain doesn't get it. As I said earlier, if you are sharing a computer with somebody, have multiple users. Passwords prevent people from going to the wrong place inadvertently. Now, multi-factor, two-step authentication. You log into your bank account. before the bank will let you through the door. They are going to send a second number to your mobile device, which you will have to put into another field before they let you on the website. And yes, I know this stuff is annoying and it slows you down and I'm not going to get my work done. And to quote Governor Cuomo, you are welcome to blame me. Passwords, which can make us crazy, okay? I want to share with you what is called the LEET language, short for elite. And you can do it in multiple ways. It is the transposing of letters and numbers or characters. So you could keep password as your password, but not written as an English word. At the very bottom in blue, somebody I read once said, if you have a person, and I don't care if it's Kardashian or Jong-un, a place and a thing, you've created a bulletproof password. You run that person, place, thing through the LEET language and you're in really good shape. Just don't get carried away with something ridiculously long. That could be torturous. And also, very importantly, this is a really bad place to put the password. Don't put it there. Other people will see it and it's not a good thing to do. Now, 500 years before Christ was born, General Sun Tzu wrote The Art of War. And I'm not sure that they ever translated the bottom part in red, but you get the general idea, folks. This is where you gotta exercise a high level of caution. And understand that right now I've got a gizmo recording everything I'm saying for me. Thank you very much. And I'm not going to say the word because otherwise it's going to go bonging away and doing more things than I wanted to. But those are the steps to delete all of the information that it is accumulating. And if you are an attorney, you may want to either unplug or mute the mic. So again, understand that these are things that are going on, which we just need to pay attention to these days. So we'll talk about remote access for a little while because you may need to let people onto your machine to look at something. You may need to get somewhere else. RDP is a Windows product, and despite numerous writings that it's dangerous, I would suggest to you that if you change the port, you have minimized your risk. Splashtop is a great service. It is a paid service. TeamViewer is a German company who, on the short term, like many other companies, has waived their pricing and will allow you to remote in. I was using TeamViewer yesterday to help someone on a project. It works great. You have to give a code, you have to give a password. Do not set it up so that people can just hop on. Go to My PC, again, a familiar name, but set it up so that people can't just hop on. And Chrome Remote Desktop, which is free and only works from inside of the Chrome browser, Mac or PC, it's great. It really does work well. Now, I don't know if you saw this article or not, but here's the backstory. A Canadian woman, 6 weeks, I believe it was 6 weeks away from graduation, was called into the administrative offices where they told her that her computer had been tracked to a hack into the grading system at the school. She was expelled, she could pack her bags, no diploma, plenty of debt. Before she left school, she hired somebody like me to do a forensic on her computer, and what she found was a Go to My PC, TeamViewer, Splashtop, Chrome Remote Desktop type of thing that had been installed on her machine without her knowledge, and probably somebody who was disgruntled decided to use her machine to be disgruntled and don't get mad, get even. So keep your friends close, your enemies closer, your mobile devices even closer than that, and your passwords as close as humanly possible without causing physical discomfort. Next item that's important to understand is that unless you are paying somebody, Microsoft, Apple, none of these people are going to call you to tell you that there is a problem with your computer. You need to let them get on and fix it for you. Don't do it, please. And understand that just because you see something online or there's 4 or 5 stars about an app to download, again, there's a lot of things that are not what they seem to be. I tend to read the 1 stars, and I want to hear what people don't like about a product than the 5 stars, because the 5 stars are people who might have been getting paid. The 1 stars, people will tell you that jacket comes in, it's always oversized. You see 3 people telling you that the shoes are narrow, it's a pretty safe bet the shoes are narrow. So read the 1 stars and don't download anything that comes in your face, please. There are circumstances that are within your control, and there are circumstances that are beyond your control. Within your control is the ability to lock down your credit reports, because it is beyond your control that Equifax was hacked. So those are the links that will get you to the various credits report places so that you can do your lockdown. And yes, we are at the last of the topics. So big long punch list here, folks. I am a huge fan of Office 365. It will give you 1 terabyte of online access. That 625,000 number, the Old Testament Bible is approximately 1.6 megabytes. It will just miss fitting on the old floppy disks. If you get 1 terabyte of storage, you can fit 625,000 Old Testament Bibles online. Why you would need that many, I'm not quite sure. And if you could write that much, you are prolific. Now, alternatives to Office 365, which by the way is $100 a year for 5 licenses. OpenOffice is a free download. Stars are free. Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Google Slides are all part of that Google collection of stuff. They give you less storage on the free side than if you are in G Suite. And if you buy an Apple computer, Apple Pages, Numbers, and Keynote come with the computer. However, before you send an Apple document to somebody on a PC, you will need to export it and turn it into a .doc, .ppt, .xls. I'm a huge fan of Evernote, which will give you 60 megabytes per month of space. And just like on your phone service, it goes back to 0 next month. That 60 megabytes is 37.5 Old Testament Bibles. That's a lot of space, folks, for stuff that's writing. Now, short term, if you've got students in your house, Adobe Creative Cloud, their fees have been waived. So your kids can get to Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere. There are other pieces to the Creative Cloud, but those are probably the big 3. Browsers. Brave is not tracking you. Chrome is tracking you. It is a Google product. Firefox is not tracking you, but it is becoming kludgier, and it's not playing as nicely with as many websites as it used to. There will be websites that require Microsoft Edge. They have been built specifically to play with Edge, but it's not one of my first alternatives. I alternate between the top three, quite frankly. QuickBooks Online, at the very small business, you are now $25 a month, but they keep the shoebox of information. Your accountant can get access to it, and it is a great way of keeping track of your stuff. And you have to hope that they're doing a fairly good job in the way of security. That last link was to an article I just saw the other day. If you've got the time to test drive 50 different items, don't let me stop you, but understand they're just giving you a laundry list of choices. On the other side, we've got Ubuntu, which is a Linux operating system, which I forgot my star. It is free. It will give a new lease on life to old computers. It is a topic unto itself. Portable Apps is a website with a huge amount of downloadable resources. LiberKey is similar to Portable Apps and does exactly the same thing. Bullzip is a free PDF printer. When you install Bullzip, it will allow you to create a PDF from your Word doc or your spreadsheet or whatever else. Jumbo is an app that can go onto your phone, and it will track and block and safeguard is probably the easiest word and best word. Safeguard your social media. Read about it before downloading it. I saw about it in the Times. It was a great article, and I have recommended it to many people. I'm recommending Bitdefender as a free antivirus. Be very careful. They will keep pushing you towards their paid version, but for home use on PC, it is free. The reason I use Firefox are for the add-ins that you see down there with that big red one at the bottom. FlagFox will tell you the country of origin of the website that you are touching. If you go to Facebook, you will see that Facebook is coming out of Ireland. It will also tell you if you log into your bank, whether you are getting stars and bars or a flag from somewhere on the African continent, for all I know. It is a great safeguard to let you know what's going on. As anyone who has ever done a presentation will tell you, there are three parts. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and tell them what you told them. So we were all told growing up to look both ways before we crossed the street and don't touch a hot stove. We are just getting into the era now where we are passing on information to our kids that will become part of what they pass on to theirs. So bear in mind, a lot of this may be sort of new to us. It will not be new to our kids. Second one, I won't say it again. Third one, please remember that this is all to try and keep you safer. And that everything thing, really important these days. Social media, be careful what you post. The internet never forgets. Be careful where you get your information from. Try to validate it from multiple places. It's really a good idea. And as I said at the beginning, by the end of today, this webinar will be online at the Fairfield County SCORE YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and just type into the search bar Fairfield County SCORE, you will find this. Our chapter will be sending out a constant contact notification of the link, but this is another way to get there. So I am happy to take questions now. And while I am doing that, I am going to leave up for you a list of other webinars that are available and address issues of technology. So it is now time to stump the professor.
Okay, thanks, Bud. That was very interesting. We'll now use the remaining time for a little Q&A. So the first question that came up actually came up while you were talking about backing up your system. And the question is, what about using thumb drives to store things on? Is that a good idea?
A thumb drive is an external drive. If you unplug it when you're done, it's fulfilling that recommendation of keeping something not connected to your network. It's a good choice. Just don't lose them. They go away really easily. I have my thumb drives connected to my car keys because I'll say to a client, nice to see you. I walk out the door. I ain't going anywhere because I don't have my car keys with me. And when I take my car keys, I have my thumb drive too.
Right. Next question is, please confirm how often computers should be scanned for virus or malware. How about your phone?
Don't have an answer on the phone. I would have to look up before replying on that. As far as computers, many of these software packages are doing them automatically. I tend to run SUPERAntiSpyware once a week, once every other week, depending upon how much use I'm doing. The antivirus that I've got is, in theory, doing scans. One of the things I would recommend these days is before you go to bed at night, set up a scan, because while you're asleep, the computer can do that work and it's not going to slow it down while you're on it during the day. The other thing that will help your computer, got my tongue all tangled up. The other thing that will help your computer run better is to do reboots. If you reboot your computer, it gets all of the cobwebs out of the RAM and just helps it to kind of get a fresh start.
Very good. The next question is, can you repeat the home Wi-Fi routers that you recommend? I think this goes back to when you were talking about
Sure.
routers and
Yep.
mesh.
There's several. First of all, the category is called mesh, M-E-S-H, and just think of them as overlapping bubbles. So Netgear makes a system called Orbi, O-R-B-I. Amazon has Eero, E-E-R-O. And Google, I'm sorry, I just call them hockey pucks, but Google, if you look up Google Mesh Router, it will give you the official name. I'm sorry, I just call them hockey pucks.
Very good. That's all the time we have for questions today. As a reminder, a recording of this webinar and the materials are available within a couple of days on the fairfieldcounty.score.org website. Please check out our website for upcoming webinars as well. Again, SCORE offers free individual counseling, so please use the link on the screen or visit our website and click Request a Mentor. Also, please fill out your evaluations that have been sent to you at the end of this webinar, and please feel to tell us what topics you want us to cover in the future. We're always looking for new topics to cover in our webinars. On behalf of SCORE, I'd like to thank you all for attending today's SCORE Live webinar. In closing, a big thank you to Bud Freund for presenting today. Have a nice day, everyone.